So the objective of the today's presentation is to highlight the various treatment modalities available for the keratoconus and also to discuss the treatment algorithm of the keratoconus. So the aim of management of I'll be not going through the introduction, sign and symptoms of the keratoconus because it has been already covered by Musab sir. So directly we'll be discussing about the management options for the keratoconus. So the main aim of management of keratoconus is to provide the visual rehabilitation in a safe and the effective manner by different optical mechanism and also to stop its progression if any. So management depends on the visual need of the individual patient and this may varies as disease progresses or if problem arises with that particular approach. It also depends on the state of progression. The management of keratoconus is straightforward in concept but may very difficult in practice and is at all times tailored to the individual patient. So there is no thumb of rule of management of keratoconus. Every patient present to you with a diagnosis of keratoconus has to be managed individually. So there are different modalities available for the management of keratoconus, which can be described under these five following heads. So first is a spectacle correction. Second one is contact lenses. Third one is collagen cross-linking. Then intracorneal ring segment, and the last one is keratoplasty. So we'll go one by one. So first one is a spectacle correction. So the mild form of keratoconus can be treated with the spectacle only. However, the retinoscopy is often difficult in case of mild keratoconus also because of the seizure reflex. So in this type of condition, keratometry measurement are helpful in the refraction. A spectacle can provide acceptable vision for a patient who is having a mild case of keratoconus. But it also depends on the dynamic accommodation state. And for treating a patient who has a mild form of keratoconus with the spectacle, the keratoconus should be present in both the eyes symmetrical. So it shouldn't be one eye has a mild keratoconus and another eye has moderate or severe amount of keratoconus. So both eyes has to be symmetrical severity of the keratoconus. Then only we can correct with this spectacle correction. If we can achieve a better vision with the spectacle. So coming to the contact lenses, so contact lenses are the primary form of visual corrections for a patients with the keratoconus and where our expertise as an optometrist comes into picture. So also the contact lens fitting process for a patient with the keratoconus is a complex but it's a challenging little bit, but it can be quite life changing for a patient if we can achieve a good vision. Fourth of the patient with the contact with keratoconus in the developed world can be visually rehabilitated with the contact lenses successfully. Advancement in the contact lens designs and the material have significantly expanded nowadays because nowadays there are different varieties of scalar lenses is also available to manage the keratoconus to give a better visual acuity in a patient who is having keratoconus. So the available fitting options for a patient with a corneal ectasia, the imaging technologies such as corneal topography, anterior segment OCT can be applied to guide the contact lens fitting. So while fitting contact lenses and the finalizing the lenses, there are fitting objectives. So there are few fitting objectives which you need to keep in mind. So like to provide the best visual acuity with the contact lenses, and also the contact lenses should have a minimum or minimal or no interference in the corneal physiology, thereby avoiding any corneal insult. And the last but the most important, the contact lenses should be comfortable for a patient. So any type of contact lenses, whenever you choose any type of contact lenses or dispense, these three parameters are very important parameters on the basis of which you will choose your first trial contact lenses, which is base curve, diameter, and back vortex power of the contact lenses. So while choosing your first contact lens trial, these are the things which you need to be seen, which is cone position, cone size, and its shape. In its shape. So if you look into these three pictures, this is the case of like nipple cone, and this is oval cone because it is not in the central, it is a little bit paracentral, so that's why it is named as a oval cone. And this is a case of keratoglobus because there is overall stiffening in the cornea. So the cone size and the cone size, cone position, and its shape basically help us to select the diameter of the contact lenses. So if you have to choose a diameter for this nipple cone, a smaller diameter lenses will be chosen. However, for this oval cone, larger diameter lenses will be required to cover this cone position. To cover this cone positions. So, and for this globus cone, the scleral lenses could be the better options as it has a larger diameter available in the scleral lenses. Because this globus cone related keratoconus patients will require a larger diameter of the lenses to cover this the whole cornea. So that will be available in the scleral lenses only. So scleral lenses will be better options for this keratoglobus type of patients. You also need to take into account the corneal toricity, which helps in determining both the bias vertex power and the base curve of the lenses. And the lid tonicity and its position also helps in determining the diameter of the lenses because if the palpebral feature height for a patient is a smaller, then that patient will require a smaller diameter of the lenses. So like that, the lid position and the lid tonicity is also very much important to deciding the diameter of the lenses, contact lenses. So coming to the contact lenses option for the keratoconus, so there are varieties of contact lenses available to treat the keratoconus, to manage the keratoconus. So like soft contact lenses is there, conventional RGP lenses is there. So we'll go one by one with these flowing contact lenses. So first one is soft toric contact lenses. So again, the early cases of keratoconus can be corrected with these soft toric contact lenses because it has a limited parameters available. So like previously it was available up to minus 2.75 diopter cylinder only, but now it's available up to 5.75 diopter cylinder in by Cooper Vision company. So the main idea of so the patient will be not comfortable with the soft toric contact lenses in case of moderate or advanced keratoconus because they will be having higher order aberrations in a patient who is having keratoconus. So if you will give the soft toric contact lenses, the only the lower order of aberrations can be corrected with these soft lenses. The higher order aberrations will be remain same. So that's why the patient will be not much comfortable with the soft toric contact lenses, even sometimes in case of early keratoconus also. So that's why the RGP contact lenses will be the better options for a patient who is having keratoconus. So coming to the conventional RGP lenses, so these conventional RGP lenses are the Indian RGP lenses. So these are the first choice of lenses, and they are also good a standard of fitting, gold a standard of fitting patients with the keratoconus. These lenses are tri-curve lenses, which has been three curve in the periphery. However, low to medium oxygen permeability material is available in these conventional RGP contact lenses, and the special trial set with the steep base curve will be required to fit a patient with a keratoconus. So, so especially whenever you are treating or you are planning to do a contact lenses trial for a patient who is having keratoconus, so you will require a special trial set which contains a steeper base curve. So coming to the keratoconus fitting philosophy, so while fitting any patients with the keratoconus, either with the conventional RGP or Rose K2 lenses, so there are three fitting philosophies which need to take into consideration. First one is apical clearance, which is a type of steep fit. Second one is apical bearing, which is a type of flatter fit or loose fit, and the 3-point touch. So 3-point touch will be the ideal fitting uh, fitting characteristics of a patient for a RGP lenses. So we'll go through one by one. So first one is apical clearance. So in the apical clearance, basically the contact lens will support away from the corneal apex, away from the corneal apex. So the risk of apical scarring is reduced with this type of fitting, which means there will be no corneal insult. So why the risk of this apical scarring will be reduced in this type of fitting? Because there will be having gap, there will be gap between the contact lenses and the cornea in the center. Because here also in this picture you can see there is a central pooling of the fluorescence. So here it means it's showing there is a little bit gap between the contact lenses and the cornea in the center. So that's why there is a fluorescent accumulation in the center. So as in this apical clearance, the maximum support of the lens will be in the periphery. There will be very little or no movement of the lenses, which will make the patient. So because of the little movement of the lenses, the patient will be more comfortable. But due to pulling in the center, which you see here, there will be lots of fluorescent dye accumulated here in the center, right? So because of that, the patient visual acuity may vary. Okay, but the patient will be more comfortable with this apical clearance because of less movement of the lenses. Because this is also known as a steeper fit or tighter fit. So coming to the apical bearing, so apical bearing, in the apical bearing, the maximum support of the lens in the apex of the cornea. In the apex of the cornea means there is a central, so in this area there is a maximum support of the lens because there is a touch between the lens and the cornea in the center of the, in the central zone. So this kind of fit is easiest to achieve and the best visual acuity has been seen as compared to the apical clearance. So due to too much tear meniscus form in the periphery, so here you can see due to too much because of excessive tear accumulation in this area, the lens is really unstable because there will be having lots of movement with this type of fitting in this picture, right? So this fitting technique was widely used in earlier time when it was thought that the larger, flatter RGP contact lens could reshape the cornea and halt the progression of the keratoconus. So because this technique is more likely to cause the corneal scarring in the center, so this has been fallen from a favor in the recent years. So this basically, so nowadays we will not practice this kind of fitting philosophy. We will not follow this kind of fitting philosophy because of there is having high risk of having the patient will be getting apical scarring if we'll give for a long term this type of fitting. So that's why this is not a good fitting for patients with having keratoconus or for patients for any type of patients if you are giving this RP contact lenses. So coming to the 3-point touch or divided support, so it is the most widely accepted philosophies where where the lens divided is equally in the center as well as in the periphery, which makes the patient more comfortable and gives them a good vision. So here in this picture, you can see there is a light touch in the center and allow no corneal scarring and peripheral, and you can see there is a peripheral clearance because there is accumulations of the tear meniscus in this area, and there is a peripheral clearance is there in this here you can see there is a clearance means there is a touch between the lens and the cornea, right? So because of this, the patient, so because of this, there will be having good movement with this type of fitting, and the patient will be more comfortable, and also the visual will be also good with this 3-point touch. If you can achieve this 3-point touch, then that will be good. But this 3-point touch will be achieved only in case of mostly in case of nipple cone only will be getting this type of fitting philosophy. Otherwise, in case of any fitting philosophy, you be able to maybe you may not be able to get this 3-point touch. Okay, so this is all about the conventional RGP lenses and the fitting philosophy. So now coming to the Rose-K2 lenses. So this is the specialized Rose-K2 lenses for the keratoconus. So, so these are the multi-curve lenses at the back surface which align with the back surface to shape of the cornea. So if you see in this first picture, this is the normal tricurve conventional RGP lenses, and this is the multi-curve Rose-K2 lenses. So if you see here, there is 1, 2, and 3 tricurve, whereas if you can see here, you can see multiple bumps or multiple curve here in this area. So if the back optic zone is larger, in case of advanced keratoconus, where the cone becomes more steeper, where the cone, so in case of large keratoconus, the cone becomes more steeper. And if you will go with this larger optic zone diameter lenses designs, then there will be having so the temporal alignment of the lens on the cornea will be more steeper, and there will be having deep pooling of fluorescence in the apex of the cone. Okay, so because of that, there will be having sometimes chances of having corneal hypoxia in this particular area, in this peripheral area, because of this tighter fit in the periphery, and there will be having chances of sometimes getting apical scarring in the center of the cornea also. Okay, so just to avoid this hypoxia conditions or apical scarring, if you go with this multi-curve lenses that is Rose-K2 lenses designs, it aligns really well to the shape of the cornea, and also it has a very small optic zone as compared to that of the RGP contact lenses. So as smaller the optic zone gives us much so a smaller optic zone gives us options of much a steeper base curves, so that help us in fitting the advanced keratoconus. So just to fit the advanced type of keratoconus, we need a steeper base curves, which will be available in the optic zone, a smaller optic zone diameter only. Okay. So the other advantage of Rose-K2 over the conventional RGP lenses, it has advanced fitting options available for a periphery. So with these fitting options, you can change in the periphery without changing any other fitting parameters of the lenses. So if your suppose if your center fitting is fine, mid periphery is fine, and only you want to change in the periphery, these options are available in this Rose-K2 lenses. So the first one is flexible edge lift. So in this, you can either flatten or steepen the periphery. So if you feel that your center is fine, mid periphery fine, and mid periphery is fine, and the periphery is tight, so you can flatten the periphery without changing the other parameters, other fitting parameters. So so you can change the periphery only if you feel that the all other fittings are good and only there is a tightening in the periphery. So you can flatten the periphery part of the lenses, and you can order accordingly. So similarly, the second option is ACT, that is asymmetric corneal technology. So in the ACT, basically it allows to steepen the lenses only in the inferior quadrant to avoid any edge lift. So suppose if you are fitting a contact lenses for a keratoconus, and if you achieve an ideal fitting with that particular lens parameters, and there is only edge lift in the 6 o'clock, then you can simply avoid those edge lift by adding this ACT, asymmetric corneal technology. So there are three grades of this ACT grade 1, 2, and 3. So so accordingly we can give. So depending on how much edge lift is there. So third one is toric peripheral curve. So yeah, so for toric peripheral curve, I have given some picture. So if you see in this picture, so this is the original picture without any TPC or peripheral curve. So here you can see there is a thin edge clearance at 9 o'clock and this at 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock, and there is a thick edge clearance at 12 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So just to avoid this 3 and 9 o'clock staining for the long term, we need to add TPC, that is peripheral curve. So basically in TPC what is happening? So we are making the lens steeper at 12 and 6 o'clock position so that there will be having ideal fluorescence distribution in this area, and we are making the flatter periphery at this 9 o'clock and 6 o'clock. So if you see these pictures, so the same pictures, so in these pictures, basically we have given, this is with TPC. So here you can see there is an ideal peripheral fitting has been also achieved by using this, by adding this TPC in this type of fitting. Okay. So the main aim of giving this TPC is to make the lens flatter in this 3 and 9 o'clock area and to steepen this 12 and 6 o'clock area. Okay, so coming to the piggyback lens system. So these are the RGP lenses which you fit over the soft contact lenses. So you basically have two lenses system in a piggyback lens system. Soft lenses. So first one is soft lenses, which is usually used silicon hydrogel lenses, and the indications of these lenses is to so the patient who has a poor stability of the RGP contact lenses, and also if the patient is having a apical scarring in the center of the cornea, or if the patient is having RGP intolerance, then those patients will be more indicated for this piggyback lens system design. And the fitting objective of this piggyback lens is the both lenses, RGP and soft lenses, should have independent movement. So when you go and fit somebody with a piggyback lenses, so you have to fit two lenses. First, you have to put soft contact lenses and then do fitting assessment and get optimal fitting, and then remove the soft contact lenses, and then you have to insert the RGP lenses, and you have to fit the RGP lenses until you get an ideal fit, and then you have to remove the RGP lenses and then insert the RGP lenses over the soft contact lenses. So basically you are assessing fitting as so basically you are assessing the soft contact lenses fitting independently and the RGP contact lenses fitting independently, and then together you are assessing the fitting, and accordingly you are making decisions, and accordingly you are making decisions ki, okay, this parameter is for the RGP lenses, and these parameters will go with will be the soft contact lenses. So accordingly you have to order two different lenses for this in this piggyback lens system. Okay, okay, movement on the eye. Okay, but only the problem with this piggyback lens system is that the patient has to carry two different solutions with them. One is for the RGP and another is for the soft lenses. Okay, so this will be sometimes expensive for a patient and inconvenience also. So that's why this will be not practicing nowadays, but there is no other problem we can go with these piggyback lenses also if the patient is having RGP intolerance, or if the patient is having poor suitability of the RGP lenses, stability of the RGP lenses. Okay, so coming to the hybrid lenses. So hybrid lenses are very much similar to the piggyback system lenses. The only difference is the two lenses that you used in the piggyback lens system are incorporated into a single lens in these hybrid lenses. So you have a central, okay. So in this piggyback lenses, so you have a central part RGP and peripheral part soft lens. So here in the central part will be the RGP lenses, and in this peripheral there will be softer part. So the central RGP lens basically gives a good vision, whereas the peripheral part of this lens will give a more comfortable for a patient. So only the limitations with these hybrid lenses is like there is only limited parameters available with these lenses, and also there will be having there is a poor oxygen transmissibility and low decay material is available with these hybrid lenses. So that's why this has been not practicing nowadays. So coming to the Kerasoft for the irregular corneas, so you can call this as a type of customizable soft contact lenses. So these lenses are manufactured by a company, United Kingdom, called Ultra Visions. They have an so in these lenses they have an options for both hydrogel, that is silicon 2, which is available for 12-month replacement, and the silicon hydrogel material, that is ifrosilicon A, which is a replacement of 3-month modalities. So whenever you fit with this hydrogel Kerasoft, you have to make sure that you are doing a very close follow-up, like in maybe every quarterly or 3 monthly follow-up, because since these lenses are hydrogel lenses, if you are giving these 12-month replacement modalities, so since these lenses will be the hydrogel lenses, so there will be having chances of getting neovascularizations and the hypoxia changes with these lenses if the patient wear these lenses for a longer hours in a day. Okay, so because of that we need to closely follow up with this particular lens design. So one is the problem with these lenses is this one only. Otherwise, you can go with these lenses. However, okay, there is another slide for this. So, so the optics for this, so these lenses, so its front surface is sphere and the aspheric toric. However, the stabilization techniques which has been used in these lenses is prism blasted lens with a balanced overall corneal thickness. And there is wavefront aberrations control is also given. So similar to the Rosque 2 lenses, the peripheral can be also manipulated. So either you can steepen or flatten the periphery of the lenses. And also there is the options of sectoral management control. So coming to the scalar lenses, so I'll be not going very details about these scalar lenses because it will take lots of time. So basically these three types of scalar lenses which we use to practice in our CL Gupta Institute. So first one is Purecon corneal scalar lenses, whose diameter is starting from 14.5 mm, and the Boston sight scalar lenses, whose diameter is starting from 15 to 19.5 mm, and the Pros lenses, which diameter is starting from 15 to 24 mm. So these all lenses are customizable lenses. So these lenses has been divided in these three different groups depending on their diameter of the diameter. Okay. So these lenses is also widely used nowadays for a patient who is not suitable for the RGP contact lenses, or for patients who is not comfortable with the RGP lenses. So this is the good option for a patient who is having keratoconus. So we are using, we used to give or we used to counsel the patients for these experiences also. Coming to the corneal plus linking, so I will be not going very details about this because Professor has been already covered. So the intracorneal ring segment. So this ICRS is indicated for moderate to advanced keratoconus patients, where the corneal, so the minimum corneal thickness should be more than 415 microns. So in that type of conditions only the this intrastromal corneal ring segment will be applicable. So this ring is made of by polymethyl methacrylate materials. So here you can see there is a two rings which has been implanted in this deep stromal corneal stromal. So because of this ring, there is a reduction in the corneal distortion by flattening the original steepest area of the cornea and reshaping it. So this ring basically reshaping the cornea by flattening the steepest area of the cornea. So the main goal or the main aim of implanting this intrastromal corneal ring is to provide a good spectacle corrected vision and also by minimizing the amount of cylindrical power. So the last but the not least, the corneal transplant. So this will be only options for a severe keratoconus only, where the scalar lenses also cannot give a good or satisfactory visual acuity for a patient. Then only the corneal transplantations will be indicated. And if the patient is having contact lens intolerance, then those patients will be indicated for a corneal transplant. Okay, so now coming to the keratoconus management algorithm. So this algorithm is like very much important, and it will help us to decide how we have to go with this, how we have to plan, how you have to manage the patients with having keratoconus. So when a patient come to your clinic and you have diagnosed keratoconus, so the first and the most important thing is to take care of these three factors. So like first one is to treat the allergy in an eyes in an aggressive manner and explain the importance of avoiding the eye rubbing in to prevent the progression of the keratoconus, and counsel the patients clearly, explaining about the nature of disease and what to expect as per their treatment plan. And then after assessing the visual acuity, so after assessing the visual acuity, get the patient contact lens trials done to know the maximum visual potential for a patient. And on the follow up, we need to assess whether the disease is progressive or non-progressive. If it is non-progressive, then we have a two scenario. uh, so if the disease is non-progressive, then we have a two scenario basically here. Uh, so in this certain special scenario, like if the patient is younger in age, and the other eye is having high drops associated severe eye allergy, that is VKC, or if the patient is unable to follow up with the hospital. So in this scenario, we could not wait for the progression of the disease. We can directly go with this, or we can directly plan for the collagen cross linking at the presentation itself. So at that particular visit itself. Okay. So if the patient is old and there is no risk of progression, then see the patient best corrected visual acuity. If the vision is satisfactory, then advise contact lens or spectacle, and continue the follow up till the age of maybe 20 to 30 years of age. And if the patient, if the vision is unsatisfactory with the contact lens, then or there is poor contact lens intolerance, then check whether the patient can benefit from this intrastromal corneal ring segment or not. If the patient is not getting satisfactory, if the patient is not suitable for this ICRS, then there is only one option: corneal transplantation. So if the disease is progressive, then we need to look whether the CXL or collagen cross linking is possible or not. If the collagen cross linking is possible, then we have three options: either collagen cross linking alone, or either this collagen cross linking. So in this scenario, you have to assess the expected corneal thickness. If it is more than 400 micron, then plan uh, uh, so so इसमें क्या होता है? Yeah, so basically you have to assess the expected epithelial of corneal thickness. If it is more than 400 micron, then go for the standard Dresden protocol or uh, uh, accelerated protocol for the CXL. So this protocol has been already covered by myself, sir. So I will not discussing more details. So basically, if the patient corneal thickness is more than 400 epithelial of corneal thickness, then this standard CXL can be planned for that particular patient. And if the patient expected epithelial of corneal thickness is less than 400 micron, then the most useful protocol would be using hyposmolar dye or hyposmolar dye prepared in HPMC instead of dextran. So this dextran related things also I think Musa sir has been covered in his presentation. So if yeah, so there is another options. So another options would be like CXL collagen cross linking, which is combined with the either PRK or intrastromal corneal ring segment. Uh, in a very selective cases, basically this PRK or ICRS will be done along with the CXLs. Okay, and however this ICL can be also done in case uh, uh, in case more or less regular estimation, basically in a very lesser amount of so basically in case of regular astigmatism, this ICL can be also done after 1 year of post CXL, after 1 year of this collagen cross linking. If the CXL is not possible or if the patient has previously healed eye drops, so again you have to assess the vision. If the visual acuity is good with the contact lenses, then you can either plan a Bowman's layer transplant or continue to observe patients with a regular use of contact lenses. So if vision doesn't improve even with the contact lenses, then there is only one option of corneal transplantation. If hydrop scar is central or large, then can we plan for PK, that is full thickness keratoplasty. And if the hydrops is smaller or paracentral, then the DALK, which is mm, then you can the consultant can plan for DALK or DALK by using this layer by layer dissection, or if there is no history of previous hydrops, then the patient can be planned for DALK. And the only the thing is you have to remember in this all scenario. So in this all scenario, you have to control the eye allergy, and you have to ask the patient to avoid the eye rubbing and counsel about the expected outcomes with this all procedure. Either you are going with the contact lenses or either you are going with this surgical options. So the point to remember from this algorithm, so treating eye allergy and counseling the patient is the most important part. And all decision, so the decision which you will make, it all depends on the patient age, progression, and the patient expectation. And the corneal cross linking can stop the progression or can halt the disease. However, the contact lenses is the key for the quality of vision. So even after CXL, the contact lenses is only one option to give a good quality of vision. So I'm done with my presentation. So Musa sir is here.
Yes, Suraj.
So sir, can you go with the cases? Can I go?
Yes.
Okay.
Before that, if anyone want to ask questions. There is a question in chat box. You can see.
So do we consider oxygen transmissibility in case of ICRS? So I think there is no role of oxygen transmissibility in case of ICRS because this is a surgical option, and in this basically there will be two PMMA silicon tube which will be implanted in a stromal layer. So sir, would you like to answer or would you like to comment on this question?
No, so logically, if you see that those rings are very small rings and they cover a very small portion of a cornea, they're made up of PMMA. So there would be a little bit oxygen transmissibility issue. But since their size is so small and uh, see, the thing is that you are not like putting on a whole cornea, you're putting only a part. So it's still that part of the cornea can get oxygen from the surrounding tissue because the other like you are not doing anything with the cornea, sorry, epithelium and everything is intact. So there between the cornea and the air there is not any barrier. You're putting that inside your cornea. So even there is an oxygen issue, but that is not of any clinical concern.
So another question is from Helen. So the patient with equal visual acuity with the glasses and the contact lens, in case of mild keratoconus, what would be the better options and why? So I think if in case of mild keratoconus, if the patient visual acuity is good with the glasses and the patient doesn't have other symptoms like night glare or night halos problem, then I think we can go with these glasses. Sir, what do you think,
Yes,
sir?
it is like see the quality was definitely much better with the contact lenses because of the aberrations. So even the patient is reading 20/20 visual acuity chart with contact lens, sorry, with glasses. Uh, Even in early keratoconus, the amount of aberration is quite high when you compare with a normal emetropic patient or a normal patient using glasses emetropic but regular cornea, and so the type of aberration would be quite different. So even in the mild cases, keratoconus would be very high aberrations, especially spherical aberration, those kind of aberrations, coma, that would be more in night time. So, so from the clinical point, if it comes to like patient is saying that what you suggest me, so I will definitely suggest them contact lenses. But if patient is like this, I am comfortable with this, I have no issue, I don't drive, I can manage very well with the glasses, so we can go ahead with the glasses. But with the counseling to the patient that uh, sooner or later, maybe next 6 months or 1 year time, you would need to go for the contact lenses. Glasses can help you for only a certain duration of time. After a certain duration, you need contact lenses. So that thing should be there in back of their mind. Like even if they are managing with the glasses right now, so in future they will be needing contact lenses. So it is
Does the contact lens like reduce the progression?
no. So see, contact lenses or intracorneal rings, all these are the visual management, visual rehabilitation. They have no role in progression, limiting the progression. So that's why they cannot be called as a treatment for keratoconus. And they are called as a like visual management for keratoconus. Treatment, not fully, but partially, you can say that CXL or C3R is a kind of treatment where you are somehow you have evidence that you can limit the progression. So contact lenses cannot limit the progression. So whether patient using contact lenses or does not use contact lenses, the progression will be there if the patient is young, age is at younger side.
Thank you, sir.
So another question from Ranu Priya is like so according to you, in between piggyback and hybrid lens, which one will be the best and why? So according to me, piggyback lenses will be the good options for a patient who is RGP intolerance. If there is no other options like scleral lenses, because so with the hybrid lenses there will be having chances of hypoxia changes in the cornea, and it will be more expensive as compared to the piggyback lenses. But the only thing is with the piggyback lenses the patient has to carry two different solutions. However, in this piggyback lens system also there will be having chances of hypoxia, like a less oxygen transmissibility issue, but that can be overcome by using this silicon hydrogel material related soft contact lenses. So Musab sir, what do you
Yes,
suggest?
yeah, I will left it to totally on patient choice. As per my clinical experience or my clinical judgment, we consider both of them as the same. Hybrid lenses would be costlier option than piggyback, but piggyback lenses would be difficult to manage because you need two different solution. One solution for soft lenses, one solution for RGP lenses. So at a time you are managing two lenses, or if you are using in both eyes means four lenses at the same time. So managing care and maintenance would be difficult part with piggyback lenses. Hybrid lenses, care and maintenance would be much easier. So it is not like that which one is the best. It depends upon like what kind of patient is.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is any impact on decay value in piggyback lenses
Yes,
as compared?
Suraj already have explained that. In piggyback lenses, you have two lenses. So of course the oxygen transmissibility will be not as great as would be only with RGP lenses, only RGP lens. But not as such any hypoxia, like because in soft lenses you are giving silicon hydrogel lenses, so they in itself having good oxygen permeability or transmissibility, and on top of that you are giving RGP lenses, which is already having good oxygen transmissibility. So theoretically yes, but clinically will not see any like clinically problematic hypoxia. So patient can continue, means they can use.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, so we have two cases. Uh, so So this is the first case. So 17 years female patient by a student. So she was a student. So there was a complaint of history. So there was a history of diminished vision in both the eyes for distance and near since 3 years, which was left eye was more less vision, more affected than the right eye. So the history of using glasses since 3 years, and there was no history of any trauma or injury. Uncorrected visual acuity for the right eye was counting finger 1 meter, and for the left eye was counting finger close to face. The best corrected visual acuity for the right eye was 20 by 320 with this following reflection, and the left eye was counting finger 1 meter with this following reflections. So this is the selenium examination is showing in the right eye there is a so everything was normal except this cornea showed some few keratoconus sign in the right eye, and in the left eye. Left eye was central macular scar along with uh, keratoconus sign. So this is the pentacam report of that patient. So here you can see there is a so this is a comparative map basically. So one is the older report and another is the recent like newer scan, newer report. So in this basically you have to look for this so this is the report from 2017, and this is uh, A1 is showing 2019 report. So basically this here difference from A to B. So basically this is showing the difference between this 2017 map and this 2019 map. So basically by using this map we need to look for is there any progression of this keratoconus or not for that particular patient. So in this patient, so to see the progression, so basically you have to look this K1, K2 or maximum K also you can see. So in 2017, the maximum K was so the steeper K reading was 60.9. However, in this newer scan, it was 64. So it has been progressed by plus 3.1 diopter in the keratometry reading, right? So there is a significant amount of change in this keratometry. By seeing this report we can observe. And the third one is and the next one is you need to look for this corneal thickness. So the corneal thickness is sometimes it will show totally different. So here it's showing it's increased by 14 micron. So let's do not consider this corneal thickness for now. We have to consider this K1, K2. So K1, K2 is showing progressions of these disease from this 2017. So depending on that, so basically the question is, so depending on that treatment algorithms, management algorithms of the keratoconus, so what will be your uh, um, like management options for this type of cases? So suppose if a patient come to you and if you will see this type of progressions, so what are the options and what is the options which you will select for that particular patient? So answer we want from interns or fellows.
First from fellow. So Shushmita, what do you think?
Yes, sir. Sir, can you please repeat the question?
Okay, so this is a patient of 17 years old, okay,
Hmm.
who was diagnosed as a keratoconus, and in pentacam report we saw that there is a progression in the pentacam report.
Okay.
So what will be your management plan for
Uh,
that?
Sir, first if there is a we suspect that there is keratoconus, then first we give management. I think by spectacles we can see if the progression is if the patient is the keratoconus is okay or not with the glasses. First management should be sir glasses, I think. After that, if the patient is not comfortable, then we prefer scleral lenses uh, or any lenses.
Anything else by considering this what is called corneal thickness and the patient age? What are the other options that you can? Any other fellows or interns?
Sir, um, sir, since if you look at the pachymetry, then we have a thin pachymetry that is less than 400 microns. And if we see the progression, it is also progressive in nature. So according to the management, what we will do is the hyperosmolar or HPMC dye that you mentioned. But if cross-linking is possible, if not, is not possible and visual acuity is satisfactory, then we can go with CL, with contact lens. But if it is not satisfactory, then dark or PK in case of the hydrops.
Okay, so since it is progressive in nature, so there is only one option. So as the corneal thickness was less than 400 microns, then the patient can go the patient can go for the C3R by using this technique, followed by contact lenses trial after this C3R. Musab sir, you want to add?
Yes, correct. Helen has explained that correctly. What was the age of that patient?
17 years.
Yeah, 70. And one more thing, like no eye rubbing. You have to keep on advising to the patients. because eye rubbing is one single independent factor which most highest contributor for progression. So more they will rub, the higher it will progress. According to the management, they have to see 3 hour means if it is possible, if doctor is agree to go for. Otherwise, they can be given contact lenses and asked to review after every 6 months. So maybe we can go to the second case.
So this is the second case. So 23 years old female. So there was history of diminished vision in both the eyes for the same since 5 years, and there was history of using glasses since 5 years. And vision with the glasses is not improving up to satisfactory level since 3 years. And the uncorrected visual acuity for the right eye was 2400, and for the left eye was 2600, and the base corrected visual acuity was 20 by 100 with this following reflection, and for the left eye was 20 by 125 with this following reflection. And the slit lamp examination is showing both eye has keratoconus features in the cornea. Rest other findings were within normal limit. And this is the topography. So I have taken here only the right eye topography map. So this is the topographic map. So this is, so for that patient there was only one visit. So that's why I have taken only one this topography map. So here you can see the thinnest location for this patient is 436, which is more than 400, and the K max is around 66.9. And this is the K1, K2 reading. Okay, so by seeing this map and the presentations and according to age of the patient, what will be the treatment algorithm or management algorithm for this patient? So how we will go with this?
Hello,
So,
sir. Sir, we can
Let,
go.
let just 1 minute. Let
Oh, yeah.
anyone else.
Vaibhav Gupta, Mr. Vaibhav. Rafat Afrin,
Where are the other fellows? Means they are not in the class.
no, only Susmita, Helen.
Okay, so no one update their attendance. Sushmita, you would be sending their attendance from today, every day. Fellows online class.
Okay, sir.
Ajay, where is Ajay? He's in cornea.
Yes,
Okay, Helen. Just go on.
Sir, since we cannot say about the progression, even though it is written that vision is satisfactory, vision is very poor, 2100. So if there is a unsatisfactory vision, then patient can go for ICRS or DALK or PK. But that is also if there is poor contact lens tolerance. That is what I know.
okay. So as Helen said, so we don't know whether basically we don't know whether this is progressive or it's non-progressive. So as the patient age was 23 years old, and there was very less risk factor of progressing disease, so we will go with this contact lenses trial. Or So for this patient, we tried Rose 2 contact lenses. So the patient was 20 by 25 in both the eyes, and the patient was comfortable with these lenses. And in the follow-up, basically, we need to look for whether the disease is progressive or not. If it is progressive, then maybe the C3R will be planned, because the C3R was not planned in the first visit because the corneal thickness was good, 423. So if the corneal thickness was suppose less than 400 or it is near about 400, then maybe consultant has to decide like, okay, this patient can be planned for C3R. Am I right, sir? Okay, any questions from anyone?